Some stories are loud. They end in shouting, in chaos, in broken fists. This one doesn't. This story is quiet, cold, patient. Welcome to Whisper of Vengeance. A place where revenge doesn't scream. It waits. Tonight's story is about greed. The polite kind. The kind that hides behind smiles, contracts, and professional voices. It begins far from the city, near a forgotten road, with a house no one wanted, and a man named Daniel Cross. Daniel wasn't rich. He wasn't powerful. He didn't scare anyone. But he had something far more dangerous. Patience. He believed in earning things slowly, in fixing what others abandoned. In building a future instead of chasing shortcuts. When Daniel found the house, he didn't see decay. He saw possibility. What he didn't know was this: someone else saw the house too. Not as a home, but as profit. And that single moment of greed would cost that man everything. The farmhouse sat outside Blackmoor, where the road ended and silence began. I parked my car and stepped out. The wind moved through broken windows. The paint had peeled away long ago. The roof sagged under its own weight. The windows stared at me, like tired eyes that had seen too much. Inside, the floorboards creaked. They seemed to warn me to turn back. I didn't. I didn't see ruins. I saw potential. A chance to fix what others gave up on. The land around the house was wild, overgrown, ignored for years. The house had been on the market for almost 2 years. People said it was too much work, too risky. I never feared work. I feared wasting time. This house wasn't broken. It was waiting. Waiting for someone who could see its value. And I wasn't about to let it slip away. I didn't rush. I studied every inspection report, every estimate, every warning. The numbers were heavy. My savings would shrink. The work would take years. Still, I moved forward. When I made my offer, it wasn't aggressive. It wasn't desperate. It was fair. The sellers responded quickly, an older couple. Quiet voices. Tired of waiting. They didn't want a bidding war. They wanted closure. Paperwork followed. Inspections were booked. Lawyers got involved. Everything felt smooth. Too smooth. There were 48 hours left before contracts were exchanged. 2 days. That's when my phone rang. The voice on the other end was calm, relaxed, too relaxed. It was the first warning I ignored. His name was Marcus Hale. He spoke smoothly. Every word controlled. Every sentence deliberate. Just a small update, he said. Then paused. Not accidentally. A new buyer had appeared, offering $30,000 more. I stayed silent. The sellers prefer you, he added. They value your commitment. Another pause. If you increase your offer slightly, just $5,000, I'm confident we can secure the property for you. His voice was soft. The message wasn't. This wasn't advice. It was pressure. A test. Marcus was watching, waiting to see how far I would bend. I understood immediately. This wasn't about the house. It was about his commission. And he expected me to cave. I didn't. I never cave. After the call, I sat in silence. I replayed every word, every pause, every inflection. Nothing added up. If the other buyer really existed, the sellers would have accepted the offer. No call. No delay. I realized then. I wasn't being outbid. I was being squeezed. $5,000 meant nothing to the house. It meant everything to his commission. Anger rose inside me. Cold. Controlled. I remembered my father's words. Never reward dishonesty. I picked up the phone again. My voice steady. My words measured. I said no. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't explain. Just no. And in that quiet refusal, I felt power. The power of patience. The power of knowing what's fair. Because some people think greed is clever. But they forget. Patience can be far more dangerous. I called Marcus. The line clicked. He sounded calm. Too calm. I've thought it over, I said. Please tell the sellers I'm withdrawing my offer. A pause. He asked why. I didn't answer. I let the silence speak. It was louder than any excuse. He tried to push. Are you sure? We can make this work. Just 5,000. I repeated myself. I'm done. Tell them. Withdrawn. Click. He hung up. Relief didn't come. Only satisfaction. I imagined the conversation he'd have with the sellers. The lies he would tell. I didn't care. I had the upper hand. Not yet visible. Not yet realized. But soon. I smiled as I drove away. The house was still mine, in a way. I had all my surveys, my paperwork, my patience. Marcus thought he had me. He didn't. Patience was far more dangerous than greed. Weeks passed. I ran into the sellers in town. Their faces were tired. Concerned. They asked about my illness. Illness. I raised an eyebrow. Marcus had told them I was forced to withdraw. A fabricated story. I didn't laugh. Not yet. I told them the truth. Gently. Their agent had tried to squeeze me. For 35,000. They were shocked. Silent. I explained I still wanted the house. All paperwork ready. All surveys completed. I could finish the deal privately. No market. No middleman. They considered it. Slowly. Cautiously. Finally, they nodded. I had their trust. Marcus had none. I had exposed him. And the house was still mine. The smile was quiet. Cold. Satisfied. Marcus called. I ignored him. He left voicemails. Angry. Polite. Frustrated. I never returned the calls. The tension grew. Every day, I felt it. His greed. His failure. I walked the property. Measured. Planned. Calculated. Every broken beam. Every cracked wall. Every overgrown patch of land. All details recorded. All proof I needed. Marcus had tried to play me. Underestimate me. Lie to me. He thought patience was weakness. He thought I'd fold. But I never fold. And now, the game had changed. The advantage was mine. And I planned to use it. Every day, I felt power grow. Quiet. Dark. Controlled. I sent Marcus a final message. Short. No explanation. Your services are no longer required. I watched. Waited. And let the silence do the work. He panicked. I knew it would happen. I had everything ready. Contracts. Surveys. Signatures. The house was still mine. And it always would be. I arranged a private closing. No agents. No lies. No interference. Marcus had tried to cheat me. To profit from deception. He learned too late that patience beats greed. The sellers were calm. Relieved. And grateful. I walked the property. It felt like victory. Silent. Complete. And Marcus. He had nothing. No commission. No control. No leverage. The lesson was clear. Some people think small tricks can win. But patience. Patience always waits. The farmhouse finally felt like mine. Empty rooms. Broken floors. Wild gardens. But mine. I walked each hallway slowly. Every creak, every shadow, felt like a reward. The sellers smiled. Relieved to be free of Marcus's lies. Free of manipulation. I had the upper hand. All because I refused to fold. I imagined Marcus listening to rumors. Knowing the commission lost. Knowing the deal was done. He had no control anymore. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The house itself whispered my victory. Walls restored in my mind. Land cleared in my vision. Plans laid. Greed had failed him. Patience had won me everything. And in that quiet, dark moment, I realized something simple. Some victories aren't loud. They aren't flashy. They are slow. Calculated. Unseen until the final moment. And that is when power tastes sweetest. The house was finally mine. I walked through the empty halls. Each step echoed. Each creak reminded me I had waited. The air smelled of dust and rain. The walls whispered of forgotten years. I could almost see the life it once held. I didn't rush. I didn't start fixing yet. I just walked. Took it all in. The sellers waved goodbye. Relieved. Trusting me with something they had given up on. Marcus. He had no place here. No power. No leverage. I sat on the porch. The wind through the broken shutters felt like victory. Quiet. Cold. Darkly satisfying. This was my space now. My rules. My patience had paid off. The house wasn't just a home. It was proof. Proof that timing, patience, and calm control could win over greed every single time. I thought about Marcus. About the lies. The manipulation. Some people think they can take advantage. Some people think greed is clever. I had learned something deeper. Patience is sharper than any sword. Observation stronger than threats. Silence more dangerous than anger. Every detail I had noticed in the house became a lesson in life. Even the smallest crack in the wall taught me to see hidden weakness. Every overgrown patch of land taught me to plan long term. I smiled quietly. Not for revenge itself, but because the world rarely rewards restraint. The world rarely rewards quiet control. Yet here I was. Winning without raising my voice. Without rushing. Without exposing my hand too early. And that was the real power. I began working on the house. Slowly. Deliberately. Every fix, every paint stroke, felt like reclaiming more than property. It was a statement. Marcus had tried to take advantage. To trick me into paying more. He had failed. I controlled the situation entirely. No surprises. No hidden tricks. No middleman. The house grew stronger with each day. The land, tamed. The walls, restored. And I realized something else. Control is intoxicating. Not loud. Not flashy. Just, absolute. Every room, every corner, was a reminder that patience beats greed. That planning beats impulsiveness. That quiet confidence is far more lethal than fury. This was more than a house. It was my lesson. And my victory. I heard Marcus had called the sellers again. Panicked. Frustrated. Begging for an explanation. I didn't answer. I didn't care. I had everything I needed. The property. The trust of the sellers. Proof of my patience and his deception. He had tried to manipulate me. To make me greedy. To exploit my willingness to work. And he had failed. I walked the property at sunset. The long shadows fell across broken floors and wild gardens. They seemed to bow in respect. I smiled quietly. This was quiet revenge. Perfect revenge. Not loud or destructive. Not petty. Just, inevitable. Marcus would remember this failure. Every time he thought of the house. Every time he thought of me. Some victories don't need noise. They just need time. Patience. And a clear mind. The farmhouse was no longer abandoned. It belonged to someone who saw its value. I had won without compromise. Without anger. Without shortcuts. Marcus got nothing. No money. No control. No satisfaction. I learned that greed blinds people. Patience opens eyes. Planning carves the path. The world is full of people trying to take what's not theirs. To trick, to cheat, to lie. But some people wait. Some people observe. Some people move quietly. But strike perfectly. The farmhouse wasn't just a house. It was a lesson. A proof that silence is more dangerous than noise. That restraint is more powerful than impulse. And as I walked through the halls one last time, I knew this was more than a victory. It was proof of control. Proof of strategy. Proof of patience. And the world would keep turning. Some people would fail. Some would learn too late. But I had the last word.